people, the time for peace is over.
Help me get my transgender and non-binary children out of the state of Florida.
If my freshly 4-year-old can figure out pronouns, so can your boomer parents.
Today is the day that ends in Y, so queer activists are crashing out on social media.
Pronoun of the day is slugs.
We're going to react to some of the craziest LGBTQ TikToks I came across this week because I had to see them and I had to lose brain cells watching them, so you do too. Up first, this woke mom is teaching her 4-year-old about non-binary. Take a listen.
The other day I went to a restaurant with my girlfriend and my 4-year-old, and the server came up and said, "Hello, ladies," and proceeded to take our drink order. And as soon as the server left, my 4-year-old looked at me and just gasped and was like, "They called you a lady." She also corrected a family member the other day who she heard me and just went, "They, them, they, them, they, them," over and over again until they acknowledged her. All that to say, if my freshly 4-year-old can figure out pronouns, so can your shitty boomer parents. No more excuses.
Ugh, girl, why are you teaching this nonsense to your 4-year-old? You are a female. It's okay if you like to present yourself more masculine, but you're not some magical third thing because of the way you feel inside. And teaching your 4-year-old false information that human beings can be non-binary, when in fact almost all human beings, with the rarest of genetic exceptions, are male or female, is not good parenting. And am I the only one a little bit thrown off by the fact that you've also apparently, this lady has also apparently taught her kid that it's okay to correct and lecture adults? Excuse me, what? That's not something that very young children should be doing or be encouraged to do. I saw this video and I thought it was kind of wild and not very good parenting, but apparently a whole lot of people on TikTok saw this and ate it up and thought this girl was doing amazing. I'll read a few of the comments here. "My mother-in-law constantly misgenders my kid's stuffed animals, and my kid takes her to task over it. The kids are all right." Well, actually, it sounds like your kid is kind of rude and disrespectful and you encourage it. So that's not great. Another comment: "I love a child correcting people on pronouns. Our youngest does it too." Another person said, "Having kids affirmed my gender so much, which honestly was the opposite of what I was preparing for." I don't think as a grown adult you should be dependent on children for validation of your identity, but what do I know? Another person wrote, "My 5-year-old is always correcting people for her aunt's pronouns. My 9-year-old," another comment reads, "will throw down with people we know and strangers if they misgender me after being told." I can't be the only one who thinks this is kind of insane. The one that people are even teaching these very radical and inherently kind of nonsensical ideas about gender to very young children, but also that they're encouraging their children to try to correct and discipline adults who choose to speak differently. All of this is framed as if these adults are wrong or making an error. They may disagree that human beings can have their sex be X or non-binary. They might know what you're saying and simply feel differently or have different beliefs, and they are not choosing to affirm your delulu. That is their right, and your 4-year-old or 5-year-old or 9-year-old should not be chastising adults over their views and word choice. And if you're encouraging that behavior in your children, I think that's kind of wild. And finally, they love to say this: "If my 4-year-old can get it, why can't you?" That is simply not the bar you think it is, babe. I'm sure I could convince many 4-year-olds that I'm really from another planet. That doesn't mean somehow that grown adults should believe me if I say I'm from another planet, because even 4-year-olds can get it. This is actually the opposite of the point that you think you're making. In reality, only 4-year-olds can get it, because what you're saying is so nonsensical and so rooted accidentally in gender stereotypes that most adults won't buy it, so you're resorted to convincing children of it because they have mushy brains and just naturally kind of take their parents' word as gospel. So you think that you just did your big one or really had a moment with this, but actually it's just kind of embarrassing. We've got so many more of these crazy LGBT TikToks on deck. after a quick message from today's sponsor. Guys, I got a phone call on my personal cell phone at the gym the other week from somebody who found my phone number online and was looking to get me to promote their book. That was kind of creepy, and it's why I'm so glad to be partnering with today's sponsor, Incogni. Because as we speak, your personal information is being bought and sold online without your knowledge and consent. It can be used to harass or stalk you, spam you with robocalls, or even commit crimes against you, like taking out fraudulent loans on your behalf. That's where Incogni comes in. Incogni reaches out to data brokers, companies that are selling your data on your behalf, and requests your personal data and handles any objections on their end. And the whole process is automated. Plus, they take care that your data stays off the market by conducting repeated removals, taking your data down if it pops up again. And Incogni is available for 30 days risk-free, meaning you guys can try it out for yourselves and get a refund if you're not happy with the services. Go to incogni.com/Polumbo and use promo code Polumbo to get 60% off an annual plan and protect yourself from creeps and scammers today. Up next, this LGBT TikTok feels kind of threatening.
Queer people, the time for peace is over. If you don't have one yet, you need to go get that thing.
Look, I'm all about the Second Amendment. I believe in the right to self-defense for all Americans, and that includes everybody. That includes LGBTQIA and the rest of the Wi-Fi password movement. It absolutely includes just everyday gay people like myself who might need to protect themselves depending where in the world or in the country they're living. But the way this person said it made it feel like a threat. Like, it's not supposed to be threatening. It's supposed to be about self-defense, not scaring or intimidating people or threatening them. And also, I'm sorry, but it all seems rooted, like there's hashtag marriage equality posted at the bottom of this video, in this made up idea that like gay, lesbian, and bisexual people's rights are under attack. They're just not. And please don't spam me in the comments with, oh, this red state introduced a meaningless resolution that has no legal binding power, calling on the Supreme Court to overturn gay marriage. Yeah, I know, but those are kind of irrelevant unless the Supreme Court were to actually do it, which it isn't going to do. And these are non-binding, basically giant virtue signal resolutions. Regardless, buying guns and violently resisting would probably not be the appropriate response to that. Up next, my favorite pink-haired they-them on Instagram has a message for us.
Gender-affirming healthcare looks like this: top surgery, bottom surgery, hormone therapy, puberty blockers, but it also looks like this: cosmetic surgeries, body modification, laser hair removal, permanent makeup, hair transplants, Viagra, and much more. And the difference is, cis folks don't get pushback for the very same gender-affirming healthcare, let alone hundreds of bills trying to take away these rights on the basis of fear, misinformation, and ultimately, fake science. Yes, gender-affirming healthcare for trans folks is medically necessary, safe, and backed by decades of research and supported by every major medical association. And even though all this information is already available, people still don't listen because it's not the real point they're trying to make. It's never been about safety or sports or bathrooms or science, because all those things actually point to and benefit from the inclusion of trans people. It's always been about denying the rights of trans people because you simply don't want them to exist. But trans folks have always existed and always will. So respect our existence or expect resistance.
Again, not the vaguely threatening nature of the end. Expect resistance. What are you gonna do? Attack us with your army of stuffed animals? It's just, knock yourself out, live your life, but it's odd to me for an adult to have that many stuffed animals. Jokes aside, you hear this talking point a lot where they list all these cosmetic or various surgeries that maybe aren't ultra medically necessary in all cases, and they say cisgender people, by which they mean non-transgender people, get gender affirming care too. But it's a really absurd talking point. No matter how many times they insist otherwise, taking little blue pills so your dick works is not the same thing as cutting it off, and it's never gonna be, no matter how many times y'all make this absurd comparison. And even in situations where you are talking about an apples to apples comparison on the surface, it's still not actually the same thing. So for example, a woman having a double mastectomy because she has breast cancer is fundamentally different than a woman having a double mastectomy, or a teenage female having a double mastectomy because they identify as a boy and they are transgender and they want to present as the opposite sex. The purpose of these treatments is fundamentally different, and the underlying condition they're intended to treat is different. So in medicine, they can't be viewed as the same. They're inherently different. The same way that some drugs are approved to treat a certain condition, but if you tried to take them for a random different condition, it wouldn't be approved because it's a different thing. So just because it is considered appropriate or proven in one vein for children to receive puberty blockers, for example, to delay early onset puberty, but then they're still going to go through their birth sex puberty, well, it's still very different than giving a child puberty blockers and then hormone therapy so they never go through their birth sex puberty and they instead receive the hormones of the opposite sex to treat their gender dysphoria. It's just not the same thing. We can have a conversation about it, we can debate it, but when you claim it's the same thing, you just lose credibility. It's fundamentally not. What's more, what she says about the science all proving this is safe and effective is so 2020. It is such an outdated, debunked talking point. You can go read the Cass review, perhaps the most comprehensive systemic review of the literature and the studies on these treatments, and there is simply not high quality evidence showing that these treatments are safe and effective for minors, these, medical gender transition treatments. Now, of course, I believe adults should be able to do whatever they want with their bodies, whether they're proven with research and studies or not. Like, it's your body. As far as I'm concerned, you should just be able to do whatever you want within reason. And certainly taking hormone therapies or having breast augmentation or reduction certainly falls within that category as an adult. But to claim all the science says it's safe and effective for kids to take puberty blockers and never go through puberty and have cross-sex hormones is simply a lie or a complete falsehood. It is not true. Just because many U.S. medical associations repeat that, that's not because it's true. It's because they're ideologically captured. The European health authorities in the United Kingdom, in Nordic countries, and in many other places that started doing this far earlier than us are now moving away from it and are reaching very different conclusions. And I do understand that point. Well, the American Medical Association says it's safe. Well, the American Psychological Association says it's safe and effective. And that would have been a better point if we hadn't seen so much evidence by now that these, especially on specific issues that are highly politicized, like gender medicine, these are captured institutions, not independent scientific bodies at this point. Up next, this might be the dumbest woke TikTok I've ever heard. Take a listen.
Craziest part of MAGA folks and like the Trump administration to me is their take on trans people, because I can conceive hatred as like a human thing, right? Like a humans hating another group of humans, that's a classic human moment, right? If they were like, I hate trans people, I would completely disagree, but I could conceive that as like a human thought. But their official take being trans people aren't real? They're right there. What are you talking about? That's the wildest take ever. That's like saying plumbers aren't real. I'm looking at them. What do you mean they aren't real? There's only boys and girls. There's no non-binary folks don't exist. Hey, brother, go to Williamsburg, bro. What are you talking about? That's the craziest take I've ever heard.
Now, the most depressing part of this video is not that this young man actually watched this back, edited it, and decided, yeah, you know what, I am going to post this. This is great. I made a really good point here. It's that 161,000 people agreed and liked this video. They actually thought that he ate, that he cooked, that he dropped some bars in that video. Like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. He made a really good point. It is giving room temperature IQ, babe. And of course, in a kind of fitting moment, one of the top comments was from the left-wing LGBTQ activist organization, the Human Rights Campaign, who commented, like, we are right here. What are you talking about? And that comment got 14,000 likes. So you have the top LGBTQ activists affirming this childish rhetoric. I'll hold your hand when I explain this to you, my dude. When people say this, and I'm not even endorsing this, I just can understand this concept because I do have basic critical thinking skills. When they say that trans people aren't real or aren't valid or don't exist, they're not saying that there are no people who say they're trans. They're saying that they're actually just males and females and you can't actually change. When they say non-binary isn't real or is not valid, they're not saying people who I say they're non-binary aren't real. They're saying that just because you feel a certain way inside doesn't make you not male or not female, and that non-binary people are actually just males or females who don't want to conform to gender stereotypes. It's like the same way that if I say that Christianity is not real, which I am agnostic, so I'm not saying that, but if one were to say that, it's not the same thing as saying there are no people who say they're Christians and walk around with the crosses on. Like, this is not the point, and you are totally free to hold like a radical left-wing view on gender and trans and all this stuff, but you should at least comprehend the basics of, well, what do people who disagree with me think? Because if you can't explain that even at a 101 level, then you haven't actually scrutinized or thought about your own position very much, and probably shouldn't be spreading messages to millions of people on social media. Just a wild thought. Crazy take over here from me, I guess. Up next, this mom has 2 transgender children and doesn't seem to acknowledge that that is statistically and mathematically suspicious, shall we say. Take a listen to this TikTok video where she explains that she's fundraising to take her 2, yes, not 1, but 2, transgender children out of a red state and to New York.
If you're an ally or a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, I would appreciate if you could give me maybe 60 seconds and do these things for me. I have 7 days left to use this app. Anything I make in the month of February will be credited to me on March 15th, and those funds will go as the last minute cushion to help me get my transgender and non-binary children out of the state of Florida. We are moving at the end of March. Packing it all up and hitting the road, and we will be relocating in the state of New York, which at this point in this country, I'm grateful it's a blue state, but I'm more grateful that I will be a lot closer to the border of Canada. Can you believe he's only been in office for a month? Yeah, 1 month, and this is where we're at. So, the move happens in 5 weeks. I've started training my replacement at work. It is what it is. This is where we are. So thank you for being here. And I promise I will take you guys along on the ride. You're loading the truck up with me and you're driving to New York. See you later.
So this is a massive red flag to me. In fact, it's a bouquet of red flags. Because statistically, transgender people are 0.6% of the population. And you are telling me that you, as a woke white mom, just so happen to have 2 kids who have genuine gender dysphoria and are transgender. Well, one of them is non-binary, which is not even real or valid. So it's not even a real medical experience like gender dysphoria is. That's almost certainly not the case. And in reality, this mom is almost certainly pushing this stuff on her kids or confusing her children and making them think that they are not, in fact, the sex that they are, the sex that's observed at birth. And that is actually really messed up. I have a lot of compassion for parents who maybe find themselves in the situation where they have a kid who, from a super young age, feels trapped in the wrong body. Like, that is a thing that does happen. And I have so much sympathy for those parents who are misled by doctors or even doctors who are trying to do their best and follow the standards that we've now updated and changed, and how they could have gone down this like trans kid path and ended up medically transitioning their kid. Even though I think it's the wrong thing to do, I can have compassion and understanding for how they ended up in that position. This moms like this, absolutely not. Two children, 2 out of her 3 children identify as trans. That is almost statistically impossible unless she's pushing this stuff on her kids. And to do that when there's such severe mental health experiences that come with many of these identities and experiences and potential lifelong medical changes is demonic. Sorry, not sorry. It's demonic. It's giving demon. She's free to move to a blue state, move to New York. I don't know why she thinks she's going to need to flee America to go to Canada. That's absurd. But you know what? Honestly, vote with your feet. Do it. But don't act like you're forced to do it or expect us to believe that it's a total coincidence that you just so happen to have 2 trans kids. Nobody's buying that, babe. Absolutely nobody. And when people pointed out this statistical near impossibility in the comments, she, of course, did a little video clapping back at them.
Hey, I'm Aubrey. I'm trying to use this app to move my transgender and non-binary children from the state of Florida to New York. That's right, one transgender and one non-binary. But spoiler alert, I am a cisgender heterosexual white woman married to a cisgender heterosexual white man. And we had 3 semen demons, and 2 of them are queer. Somewhere on the rainbow, I like to say, because the funny thing about it is they are my kids. And no matter what happens, if a couple years down the line, whatever label they've given themselves doesn't fit, I'm still going to love them, no matter where they land on that rainbow, on or off of it. And that's the funny thing about parenting. You love your kids unconditionally. You give them the love and support that they need to make decisions about themselves and their life. That's it. It's really quite simple.
Did she just call her children semen demons? Ew! I hate that. I hate it here. And I'm not a parent, so I can only speak to this so much. But I don't think I agree with her premise that a parent's job is just to uncritically support and affirm whatever a literal child says about themselves. I don't know. I mean, this mom, I wonder if there's any limit to that. Like if their child, and I know this is barely even a thing, but I'm just saying hypothetically, if one of her kids started identifying as a cat and wanted to wear a tail and use a litter box, like would she go along with it? Does she view that as her responsibility as a parent, is to just love and support your child for whoever they say they are? There certainly does have to be a limit to that. And I'm sorry, but it sounds like this mom has gone far beyond that limit. And I don't know about y'all, you can let me know in the comments. I am not buying the idea that lightning struck twice here, and it's a total coincidence that this woman has 2 trans kids. I think she's pushing it on her kids, and I think that's really horrendous. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Up next, this woke white lady has actually gone insane. Take a listen to what this woman posted, filmed, uploaded, and thought, yeah, I'm going to share this. It's a video of her, and the caption is, "When Black women are speaking." Take a look at this. This feels like a fetish. This feels like girl here has a humiliation kink or something and is trying to like humiliate herself before the internet because she has a weirdly specific thing for Black women and like worships them. And listen, I really don't care, but maybe keep it in the bedroom and keep it off social media, because this is extremely bizarre, incredibly racist and unhinged, and just an absolutely white. She literally taped her mouth shut. She taped her mouth shut and showed herself writing notes. A Black woman is speaking. Us white women must be silent. Babe, this is insane. Somebody in your life needs to take you aside and explain to you how insane this is and how racist it is. The color of someone's skin or their gender does not determine whether they should be listened to or ignored, whether you should speak with somebody or just listen to their wisdom. Actually, no, that has to do with their qualifications, their intelligence, how articulate they are as an individual. This whole thing is giving woke KKK. Honestly, it's a bizarre and, yes, fetishistic strand of race essentialism and gender essentialism that really isn't progressive in any sense. It's not just incredibly cringe, but actually deeply toxic and regressive. But of course, TikTok being TikTok, the comments applauded this woman and just cheered her on. One person wrote, "This is what wisdom looks like." Another person said, "Thank you for this beautiful message, to simply listen without the need to interrupt. I appreciate you." Someone else wrote, "You're a gem." Another person said, "Period. with another comment reading, "It's this simple." Why are people affirming this Delulu and gassing this woman up as she does bizarre racist, sexist skits on the internet for clout? Like, that is not behavior the internet should be encouraging. But welcome to 2025, I guess. This woman really, it does have a cult-like devotion to Black women as a whole, as a monolith, which is just as weird as if you were like, listen to white men. That's racist, babe. Like, that's bizarre. People's inanimate characteristics don't determine their value or their insight. There are stupid Black women and there are intelligent Black women. There are Black women who know a lot about a certain subject and Black women who know nothing about it. Like, them being Black women doesn't mean you should listen to Black women. It sounds cultish and, yes, racist and bizarre. So, but it's not a one-off thing. This woman really is all in on this identity politics cult. She, you know, the whole slogan, "What would Jesus do?" Her thing instead is, "What would Black women do?" Take a listen to this.
I've decided my mantra for now on is this: WWBWD. What would Black women do? I read about them. I study their history. I follow many of you on TikTok. And they just do life with excellence. They do life with empathy, with passion, with heart, with soul. I want to emulate that. I admire them so much. And whenever I'm faced with any problem, whether it's personal, financial, relationships, my heart, my soul, my mind, I just have to ask, what would Black women do? Because when they organize, they change the world. And that's what I want to do.
My dear, this, all that, whatever on God's green earth all that was, should not have been filmed, should not have been uploaded to the internet. It should have been had as a conversation in a room with very soft walls with styrofoam all around them, and no furniture or sharp objects, with a trained counselor who could help you process your delusion and hopefully reconnect with reality. This is so deranged. What would Black women do? It's also look, obviously I cannot speak for Black women or for the Black woman experience, but how is this not offensive? You're acting like Black women aren't individuals. Like, there's some weird culty collective that all think and act the same. Guess what, babe? In any given situation, different Black women might do different things because their skin pigment and their gender doesn't actually determine their character traits or their motivations or their decision making. And your bizarre suggestion that it is not giving woke. Well, it's giving woke KKK. Again, like, I'm sorry, but this is not progressive. It's just unhinged. It's giving cry for help. And people like this, I don't even know what to say. They may be too far gone to reach at this point. They may honestly be. Whew. Okay, guys, I really can't handle any more of this, any more of these videos from the Clock app and the Alphabet people in one sitting without, I think, giving myself permanent brain damage. So thank you for joining me for this bonus video. Please do hit that like button. Make sure subscribed if you aren't yet. And we'll talk again real soon.